Welcome to the Showcase, the City Academy podcast that puts the spotlight on trailblazers from across the world of arts and entertainment. And today's guest is a mainstay of musical theatre. With over 4 decades in the business, he is a titan of triple threat and a maestro of multi-talents. And reading his performance CV, there really isn't much that he hasn't done. He's appeared in movies for Disney and Netflix, sung backing vocals for global music icons such as Adele and Josh Groban, and of course performed in some of the biggest shows, including Starlight Express, Guys and Dolls, Five Guys Named Mo, Hairspray, the list goes on. I'm exhausted just reading it. So it's time for me to run and tell you that today's guest is Adrian Hansel.
Yes, I love that.
Did you see what I did there?
I put it on the t-shirt.
I was like, will that work? I thought I'll give it a go anyway. I mean, the thing with you, I'm so intrigued by this, given the volume of work that you've done that I've just talked through there in that mini bio. If you were meeting someone for the first time who knew absolutely nothing about you, and you could pick only 3 jobs that you've ever done to illustrate your career in a nutshell, which 3 would you pick?
Okay, I would probably pick Starlight Express.
Oh, really?
Do you know reasons why?
Yeah.
Just because I did it when it was in London, so just the sheer volume of that show and how huge it was, and the fact that the set literally went up into the dress circle.
Yes.
And it was really hard because the singing, the choreography, the scenes, and then obviously had the skating. I felt that was a real win.
Yeah.
Then I'd probably pick Guys and Dolls, the Chef of Crucible.
Yeah.
Because that was a show I've always loved, and growing up, knowing that show, I just didn't really feel like it was a show that I would ever do or be part of. So when I got that job, that was like a kind of a bucket list for me. So that was a really nice one to do.
And that theatre space, I assume. Big. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I do have to say Hairspray.
Yes.
It does come, because that was just a really monumental time and, kind of a bit career shifting for me.
Yeah.
And to this day, people do always want to know about Hairspray, so it was great.
I feel like you've been in a lot of kind of shows of the moment, if that makes sense. Like Hairspray, it feels like when that was on, it was one of the kind of big tickets, and Starlight Express as well at that point in time. Sure. Really sort of like top tier shows to be in. I didn't realise as well when I was researching and looking back that you actually went back into the Hairspray role as well. And
I did.
It on tour for a bit.
Yeah, that was wild because I did Hairspray for quite a while in town, and obviously it was original cast, and what comes with that is just so many fun things. You get to do all the TVs, we did the Royal Variety Show, and we did the Olivier's, and just loads of stuff and loads of press. And it's just really, really good fun. Yeah. It's just extras which just come with the job. So when I finished that, I was like, okay, I think I've really nailed that. I've completed it. That's it. Yeah. And then a few years later, they just needed a seaweed for the last, I think, 3 months of the second tour they put out. And I was very reluctant. Because I was like, well, I just want to leave it how it was. It was just so perfect. I don't really want to go back and sort of do it again. And, I don't really like to do shows twice if I can help it. But, then the Americans call and they're like, we want you to do it. Come on. It's only 3 months. And I was like, oh, okay. And I did. And I loved it.
I was going to say, is it that
slightly older, but I got through it.
I assume it's that sort of thing where you can never recreate the magic of the first time, but it's almost like creating a different kind of magic second time.
And also, people say this all the time, and it can be a bit eye-rolly, but it really is the show. Yeah, the show is so good. It's written so well. It's choreographed so well. The music's so good that it's the show that works. Yeah, obviously, cast magic helps. Yeah, but it's always cast pretty well, I think. So it is the show. I feel like it's the show first. Yeah. And then it's the cast.
It's obviously come back a few times since 2007 when it opened. Leanne Jones was here, and I mentioned to her, obviously, the fact that it will be 20 in, 2 years' time since it first opened. She obviously said, I'd love the idea of doing some kind of a reunion anniversary concert.
I bet she would.
Would you be up for something like that if everyone were to sign on for it?
Do you know what? It would be a case of fear of missing out, I think. Yeah. I wouldn't push for it. Yeah. But if it was to happen, then I think I'd like to be involved in some way. Yeah.
I always wonder, how protective do you feel over a role? Because, for example, like when it reopened and it was on at the Coliseum a few years ago, do you kind of have that sort of, is part of you a bit like, oh, I kind of wish it was me up there because that's my role?
Not one bit.
Oh, really?
No, because you do the show, you love the show, and then you put it to bed.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, when it came round again in the West End at the Coliseum, the amount of inbox messages I had on my social media from people saying, oh my God, this is so exciting, can't wait to see you back.
Yeah.
And I was like, guys, playing who?
Yeah.
Like, Seaweed's granddad? Like, it's not going to work. So, yeah, not at all. What happened is I was so excited about how exciting it was going to be, because I knew what was coming and how special it is and how much fun they're going to have. So I was really excited for that. Yeah. And Seaweed at the Coliseum played by Ashley Samuels.
Yes.
And he was absolutely amazing. And I just, we didn't like know each other really that well. Obviously, I think he contacted me and contacted each other like when he got the job. Yeah. But I just felt like so immensely proud of like not just the production, but obviously of him, and he was fantastic. And I was just like, it's good, isn't it? And he was like, yeah, it's great. And it's kind of like a family. Yeah.
And on that sort of subject of role reprisals, do you ever think, you know, for example, like Starlight Express is now back, or is there any role that you ever look at and think, God, I wish I had the opportunity to do that again now that I've got more life experience? Is there anything that you think maybe I was too young to do it the first time?
Only one, and I was lucky enough to actually do it again. So I played the lead role of Tyron Jackson in Fame the Musical in the West End. Yeah. And it was my first job out of college. Yeah. And I was very young and I was very green. And initially I was up for ensemble, which I was just like so happy about. And it wasn't even in London, it was somewhere else. I think it was like a month in Oslo. It was my first casting, it was my first, you know, and I just went in for it. And I kept going back. And then I sang, and then Karen Bruce and the producers were like, oh, yeah, because I did a lot of dance rounds. They're like, oh, you can like really sing. And I was like, oh, thank you. And they were like, oh, take the script, read this. So I, read it, sang, still thinking I was like, I just wanted to literally just like do a few eights at the back, and that was my dream. I was like, yes. I just, because I really wanted to be in Fame at the time. Yeah. And then my agent called me and said, by the way, you got Fame. And I was floored, over the moon. And they were like, and it's in the West End. Oh, and it's Tyron Jackson, the lead. Yeah. And I was like, and I did it, and I think it was like, it had just come off tour, so they did like a 17-week run. Yeah. And I did it, and I finished it, and I do kind of remember finishing it and just being like, what happened? Like, what was that? Yeah. And then just a few jobs after that, and then I was like, oh, like if I could now knowing what I know, if I could go back and do Fame again, I would have approached it differently. I would have, because at the time I was like, I will stand wherever you want me to stand. I will say it how you want me to say it. I would dance how you want me to say it, because I just didn't really know anything else. So I did go back, and I think I did it again for a year in town. And then when I left it then, I was like, okay, I feel like I did it justice and a better job than what I thought I did the first time around, because I was just very much...
Well, I didn't realise, I was listening to another interview that you gave, and I didn't realise that you were saying that show almost changed the trajectory of your career, because people then wouldn't see you for ensemble. It would usually be sort of leads.
It's really hard, because it's like a bit of a double-edged sword, because I'm a huge believer in everyone has, different ways of getting into the industry and different paths and, and whatever works for different people. And I do think there is something in... I've got some amazing like friends who are, the best of like leading ladies and men, and who did start from swing, ensemble, cover, standby, and I think that's a great sort of like, work ethic to get into something. Yeah. So I was very young, and then I got a lead, and then obviously like, your agent and everyone behind you is like, well, let's try and really keep this, going now. Yeah. And that's the dream. But it was slightly harder because, the parts aren't as much as when, if they're looking for 5, 6, 7 boys in an ensemble track, then, maybe you'll get more. But if you're just looking for that one role and it's that one part, that feature or that lead, you either get it or you don't get it. Yeah. But, luckily it worked out well for me, because since then I've kind of only ever done either heavily featured roles or leading parts. Yeah. But it's hard, because I was only 19 and I just wanted to work. So, missing out on a lot of things. My agent saying, we're not going to put you in for that because we're not going to put you in for that. And then going in for leads, but then being up against people that's done like 7, 8, 9 shows, and you're on your second. It's just a little bit like, it was quite tough, but I just persevered, and I did do a fair few leads after.
And to what degree as well, when you are a lead versus sort of being in the ensemble, is it, particularly in the rehearsal process, a bit more of a kind of solitary existence? Because I assume sort of when you're in the ensemble, you're all kind of one big group and all of that, whereas sometimes if you're a lead, you're maybe only rehearsing alongside 1 or 2 other people. So does it sometimes feel like that? Yeah, it can
be, depending on the role, it can be very much that, and that can happen actually in the shows as well, where sometimes you don't really see many people in the show. So that can be a little bit like, you miss out on a lot, or you miss out on like the fun things because you're on stage a lot. When you're off stage, you're probably in your own room 9 times out of 10.
Yeah.
And then you finish the show, and then probably you'd go home because you can't really socialise because you've got a big 2 shows the next day, or Sunday's your only day off. So that's quite sacred. So you do, sometimes you can miss people. And the same for rehearsal. Sometimes they can split it up where, it'll just be you and the director, or you and your leading lady, or whatever scenes for like weeks and weeks. And then you start running, and that's when you start like seeing everyone else. So it can be quite sort of lonely at times.
Because I think what really stood out to me as well, just from even looking at your Instagram and stuff, is how kind of well connected you are across the industry, and it feels like you've got so many friends kind of across, showbiz, this, land and all that. Are you sort of someone that gets very kind of emotionally attached to a job quite quickly?
I wouldn't say emotionally attached. I think what happens is that it is a really bizarre, special bond that you create within the building, within the people, be it backstage, sometimes front of house, if you see them enough, your castmates.
Yeah.
And you just go through something which is a special thing that you go through that maybe not some other people would go through, be it, they worked in the hospital or like 9 to 5. I'm sure it's a different kind of connection, but in the theatre world, it's just very different, So, I'm still friends with some people from shows that I did like well over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
So that can be a really nice thing to happen.
What I loved as well was when you were talking about getting a part in Starlight Express, you were saying how Arlene Phillips had, I think, asked people around Fame what your etiquette was like.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And you had said, the reason that you were so sort of with it in the role was that you were rehearsed within an inch of your life. Do you as well, as someone that's been in the industry for a long time, when you're going into shows with possibly like younger people and things like that, do you get quite frustrated if you've got people around you who perhaps aren't putting the commitment in, or
I think
aren't as hungry for it?
I think everyone can get frustrated depending on how, what I will say is I think everyone has their own paths, and everybody makes mistakes.
Yeah.
And you come into an industry, and it's very exciting. I would never ever just be like this person that, because excitement's a good thing. You have to sort of find your own ground. But what I will say, which is really, really good advice, because I just never thought it would happen, but I do remember training and some people saying, well, people talk and you can be the best person in the world, but if you're not good to work with, or if you're late, then, you won't get the job. And you sort of hear that and you're like, oh, okay. Oh. And then it actually happened when I was rehearsing for Fame and I was auditioning for Starlight. Yeah. And I had my final, so I know I was very close for Starlight, but they were worried that it was my second sort of big job out of college. It was a huge sing.
Yeah.
And they're like, we really like him, but will he be able to manage 8 shows a week? Will he be able to do it? We really hope so. And Arlene called Karen, who was directing me at the time, and was like, we're really interested in Adrian. Listen, what is he like? Is he on time? Has he got work ethic? Is he nice?
Yeah.
And I didn't know this till afterwards, but luckily for me, Karen was like, we really like working with him. He's really professional. He's really on time. And, he's got lungs of steel. I really think he'll be fine doing the 8 shows a week.
Yeah.
And then literally 3 days later, I did my final. And then a few days after that, I got the call saying, you've got the lead role in Starlight Express in the West End.
Yeah.
But I do believe that, and also Karen, who's, Karen Bruce is an amazing director choreographer from the UK, would be the person that if she thought you weren't ready or you weren't, she would have said, she'd be like, well, I've had a nightmare with him and he's always late and he's not great. Yeah. Regardless whether that means you're not working or working.
Yeah.
So, I think that's just and that was in the very beginning. And I remember thinking, just be nice. Yeah. Just turn up and just do the best you can.
Yeah.
because, it helps.
Yeah. And your kind of big break, I suppose, it happened in the 90s in terms of the kind of earlier roles that you had. That was kind of just before you did have this sort of explosion of like reality casting show, everything from like Pop Stars, Pop Idol, X Factor, and then the Andrew Lloyd Webbers and all that. Do you think if you had been kind of, coming out of theatre school a couple of years later, do you think you might have gone down that path?
That's a really good question, because you never know, do you, until you know. I feel like because I was so eager and ambitious and green, and I think I may have given it a stab just because I didn't know any different, and I'd have been like, oh, wow, I'll do it. It is strange. And it's actually quite nice doing a fair few shows and not having the YouTubes and the Facebooks and the Instagram, and you can make your mistakes and you can do X, Y, and Z, and no one's really judging you, and no one's annoyed if you're casting something or not casting something, and all that kind of stuff that comes with it. But on the flip side, the social media has done really well for people.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe if I sort of had those explosions and just come a little bit later on, then your trajectory probably would have been a faster, higher, and the popularity thing is like crazy, because to do like shows back to back and big ones, but without all the social media, people don't really know until they come to see you in it, as well. Now what everyone's doing all the time.
Yeah, of course.
And sort of put you on a bit of a pedestal of fame.
I was going to say, actually, because how important do you think sort of self-marketing is? Because looking at, you've got a website, you've got a social media and all of that. And of course, the appearance is, for example, that you're busy, you work constantly. I'm sure there are times when you're not and that you have downtime, but whereas obviously the perception is that way. Do you think it is very important to kind of maintain, I suppose you're kind of running a business through your social media?
Yeah, it's true, because you are kind of your own business. And also, I've got to say, like, I have had offers or have had interest in someone saying, oh, I just came across your Instagram, or I've just, would you be interested in this, whatever. So I think it's a fine line, because it really isn't the be all and end all. And I do know people that don't have social media at all, and amazing, and that's great.
Yeah.
I just think use it as a business, and to maybe help you and to show, what you're capable of and what you can do. But it really isn't the be all and end all, and just try not to let it overtake your life, and try not to sort of think, well, I have to put this online, I have to film myself in Pineapple doing this class, because we go to classes to get better. We go to singing lessons to get better and to overcome things that maybe we're struggling with. So I just think there's just a fine line of how you use it and how you market yourself and make it good for you, but just don't put too much pressure on yourself. And
I know a lot of performers have very divisive opinions about things like bootlegging and YouTube and, people uploading performances and things like that. Is there any part of you that sort of, say there had been kind of YouTube back when you were first performing, and you were able to go, oh, I'll listen back on my last performance in Starlight Express and things like that. Is there a part of performers that do embrace that side of it? Where it's like,
oh my God, I'm gutted.
It's a bit like a scrapbook in a way, isn't it?
A little bit, because, listen, I'm not condoning people getting their phones out, because, we can always see you, and it is off-putting, and it can really affect some people, because obviously, again, everyone's different. I come from the place where, unfortunately, it's the world we live in, and you can record things on anything, on the smallest of devices, on the smallest of phones, and it is what it is. Would you prefer you didn't? Yes, but it's going to happen, so you can't be too irate about it. So I don't condone it, and especially because I can guarantee that if they do record it, it won't be your best show, and that's always annoying. Because we're our worst critiques as well.
Of course. But and it never sounds the same as well when you're listening back than it does in the theatre.
But there has been some great stuff that I've done that I've really enjoyed, and it was so long ago that I'm like, oh, if I could just watch that one song back, or hear that bit, or just see that bit of set, or see that routine, and you just don't ever. There's maybe 6 or 7 shows that I did, and that's finished now, that I will never be able to watch back or hear or see. And that's a little bit that's a bit of a shame.
Which is why I think it's good that some shows do lean into it now with things like the finale, where everyone can record it. Because at least you've got a documentation.
But I've got some shows where I just don't have anything apart from the program. Maybe a few pictures. So, but don't record when you're in the theatre.
You've worked with a lot of big names, in the kind of doing backing vocals in the shows you've been in. Does that ever faze you, or are you just someone that kind of gets on with it and it doesn't
faze me at all? And I'll tell you why it doesn't faze me. It's because I went to stage school.
Yeah.
So when you go to a theatre school, you get very used to your friends being in TV shows, being in films, being in commercials. So all that excitement and that, wow, I kind of had all that when I was very young, sort of like 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So you kind of get over that very quickly. Kate Winslet was above me at Red Roofs. So she was like a year above me. So I used to like see her and speak to her all the time because we went to school together.
Yeah.
So Joanne Froggatt, who's in Downton Abbey and who's in Lion, all these ITV dramas, one of our best actresses in the UK. I went to school with her. So you get used to seeing your friends on TV. I'm not saying Kate Winslet's my friend, but when I was younger, you get used to seeing people that you know or went to school with on TV.
Yeah.
So as I got older, it just never really fazed me. Obviously, do I get excited? Absolutely. Am I, not starstruck, but very like, wow, like this is someone that I respect and I listen to. Of course I do.
Yeah.
But it doesn't faze me because one, I've been employed by them, or I've got the job. I've got a job to do, and I want to do it as well as possible. So no, I don't say I get like starstruck or phased, but sometimes it is nice to go home and be like, wow, like cool,
I noticed on your social media, I think last week when Patricia Routledge sadly passed, I think you were saying you'd worked with her. And to have that experience as well of when you're working with, I mean, essentially, like a national treasure.
Yeah.
Is there a real kind of energy around that person where you're like, God, this person has got something really, really special?
Yeah, that's a really bizarre one because I honestly do believe that. And I think, I'm sure people watching and listening in will have the same thing where sometimes you can just meet someone and yes, they can be huge stars, but sometimes they're not necessarily huge stars, but they're very good at what they do, where they just have that something about them that makes you kind of go, you don't know what it is, but they just have it. And 9 times out of 10, like someone like that, do have just that sort of something about them where they're just it's just like amazing, like strong sort of aura, if you will, or, whatever you think just has about them. Yeah. It is quite incredible.
I've obviously mentioned you know a lot of people, you've worked with a lot of people. This is probably a really hard and unfair question. But if you were recording a song and you could pick 6 vocalists that you've worked on at any point in your career, stage, recording, whatever it might be, who do you think that they would be?
Like famous or just fellow musical?
Anyone that you want.
God. Anyone? Yeah. In the whole world?
That you've worked with?
That I've worked with. Okay. So, this is so hard because I've got so many friends that I love
why did you not include me on this?
Absolutely love. And some I have already, some I can leave them out. But one of my favourite musical theatre vocalists is Oliver Thompson.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only do I love his voice and his tone and what you know, that he is the nicest person you'll ever meet.
Oh, really?
That really, really helps.
Yeah.
And I have sung with him, but if I was to record a song, Oliver Thompson, I'd have to say Adele, because why not?
Of course.
Yeah. And she's amazing and very, very nice.
Yes.
So I'd probably have to say Adele. I would have to say Alice Fern.
Oh,
I don't know how we probably wouldn't get through the session because she's hilarious.
Yeah.
But she's, one of my favourite voices.
What show did you do with her?
Well, we've done loads of concerts together, but we also guested on a couple of Michael Ball tours.
Oh, right.
So we toured around the whole country.
Yeah.
We were guest singers, so we did sort of BVs on his big number. Then we had our own sort of songs. I think Alice did a duet with Michael and stuff. And then I did the Distance You Have Come, the Scott Allen show with her as well.
Oh, yes, that's what,
And I've sung on her concerts, and she's just brilliant. And I love her to bits. So how many is that? 3. Then I would probably choose Liam Tamney.
Oh, yes.
Because of that voice.
Oh, I've got you in Hairspray together. Yes.
Voice.
Yeah.
It's just like on another level.
He's now on Broadway, isn't he?
He's just off Broadway doing Alexander McQueen play.
Oh,
That's
right.
how talented he is. So he doesn't have that ridiculous voice, but yeah. And one of my best friends in the whole world, Ben Forster, who's just like a force.
Yeah.
Duh.
Yeah.
Jesus Superstar and
of course.
Phantom and
Yeah.
amazing. I think that's 6. Sorry,
a very
gorgeous,
good 6,
amazing friends who I love dearly.
Apologies for anyone that didn't cut it.
A lot of you have sung with me before, but yeah.
Yes. I'd go and see that show.
Yeah.
We've talked about obviously Hairspray, which, and I've said this before with other people, but it does feel like at the point that was on, it was very ahead of its time as well in, championing just visibility of diversity of performers as well on stage. I know that I heard an anecdote that you were showing about when you auditioned for a chorus line. Yeah. And I think the guy interviewing you said, who did you audition for? And you said, well, I auditioned for the only black role in the show.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't remember how long ago that was, but do you think, in the way that the world has changed, hopefully for the better since then, if you were auditioning for that show again now, do you think that you would feel more confident being considered for other roles in a show like that?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And things are changing, things are getting better, and we love that. It still needs a lot of work for sure.
Yeah.
But it is definitely getting better because, I definitely came out in a time where, there really wasn't a lot that I could really see myself in, and there definitely wasn't as much colourblind casting as there is now. By that I mean, we have, all different races in their ears and and everything, and it works and it's absolutely fine. And that was absolutely not the case, when I first came out. So if there was ever a part and it was a person of colour, it was either that part or you're not in the show. And I have a lot of friends, like dancer friends and some amazing ensemble friends of mine that, they would say that back in the day they would go into the dance call, and if they saw 4 or 5 other people of colour, they were like, well, it's going to be one of us out of a cast of maybe 10, 15, sometimes 20. So that was always they're only probably getting, and 9 out of 10, there probably would be one. Because I remember being at school and going to see shows, and you'd look out and I would see the one person of colour in the ensemble and being like, oh wow, or go and see a show and there would be someone as a part in a show. And generally, from what I remember, the parts were a person of colour because they had to be a person of colour. It wasn't, and listen, I do think, and I am a big believer in some shows and films and series do lean into that because they have to. And, I do think it can only work with that both ways on some things. And some things it really doesn't matter if it's set in the future or if it's really modern, or it really, really doesn't matter. And well, even Les Mis, it really doesn't matter either. But there are some shows where it kind of does, and that's absolutely fine. But so now it's a lot more, you just, audition for something and they can sort of consider you for whatever. I played Benny South Street in Guys and Dolls, and I remember watching the film and other productions of that before and being like, well, I've not really seen any, one like me. So when that did come along, I was like, oh wow, okay. So it is better, but it wasn't really the case before at all.
I mean, it feels like I mentioned to you, obviously, 6 earlier when we were talking about, I feel like, a show like that is a prime example of, there's kind of no archetype on paper there. It could be anyone of any race, any size, any shape, any size, it is just really kind of a complete blank. And hopefully more shows will be encouraged to do that. I was amazed at how long you've been in the industry for, and I said 4 decades. I personally, sort of looking back at the earlier roles that you've done, it doesn't really feel like you've aged that much. Is that ever a hindrance though, in terms of, do you ever find that perhaps you can't be considered for, let's say, older parts? Because maybe you don't look that way. And so does that ever kind of hold you back?
Yeah, it has done a little bit for sure. Even from agent conversations where, they've sent things in, to play the dad of whoever, and they've been like, no, and it's like, well, I could, but especially sort of a sort of TV or commercial things or anything like that, it's like, not quite yet. So I think even because I've not really had my beard I've had my beard for maybe sort of 5 years-ish, but without this, I do even younger. Listen, I'm older now, so things are changing, and I'm sure I'll be the dad of someone soon. But it has been where it's just like, well, no, don't. But then on the other hand, I have, I did play juveniles for a long time and it really worked for me. So, so even sort of Hairspray, I was probably a little bit older than I should have been. But then we kind of all were. I don't know, I kind of feel like Broadway sort of tends to cast slightly older. Listen, I'm not saying really, I'm talking about maybe 3 or 4 years-ish, they kind of tend to, because obviously Rachel Wooding was in that, and I did it, and Eleanor Collette played Penny, and, we were all kind of around the same age. Even the ensemble were slightly older, but they kind of seem to do that.
Well, I was going to say, even Chilly like Matthew Morrison in Hairspray originally must have been older than...
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, so they kind of sort of do that. Anyways, there have been times, don't know how long that lasts for now, but... Yeah.
Going back to that show again, you mentioned the fact that, you performed for the Queen and you did so many TV appearances and things like that. How do you balance that sense of when you are in a really demanding show like that, not just doing 8 shows a week, but you've got all of the kind of publicity on top of it and all of that attention that comes with it? How sort of in your mind do you kind of balance, sort of living the dream, but with also kind of combating like fatigue, exhaustion and managing to kind of switch off from...
Do you know what? It's really tough, and it's tougher for other people. Competing what they have to do and stuff. But Hairspray, I think, was maybe my 6th or 7th show in.
Yeah.
So I felt like I was pretty grounded in what I needed to do, what I could do, what I could give, and what I couldn't give.
Yeah.
And also not saying yes to everything if I feel like I couldn't.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I was at a point where if I was going to say to someone, I'm not going to do that bit of publicity, I'm not going to be forced into doing it either.
Yeah.
As where sometimes you feel like you can't say that for whatever reason, because for me, I do really feel like the show should come first.
Yeah.
So, if you're doing like 8 shows a week and then they want you to do like something which is all day Sunday and then you're in again all day Monday and then Tuesday they want you to do something and then you've got 2 shows Wednesday. It's like, well, thank you so much. Of course, I'd love to, the publicity stuff is the extra fun stuff. Yeah. But I have to be able to do the show for the people that's coming to buy tickets and, so that always comes first. So that I was always fine with, and I knew what I couldn't do and how much I could push myself. And as I did a fair bit of press, someone like, Leanne and obviously Michael Ball, it was just relentless.
Yeah.
Again, Michael, he's a veteran, so he knew, as where I feel like with Leanne, from the outside looking in, I was a little bit like, you need,
it's a lot.
You should have really said no to some things because she was just exhausted.
Yeah.
But, she was new and she didn't want to let anyone down or, and also what happens as well is like you feel, you are grateful.
Yeah.
But then in our industry, you're very much like, but I'm so lucky to be here.
Yeah.
But I'm doing what I love and what people sometimes would never get to do. So I have to do it and I have to be grateful and we are.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if I'm tired or my voice is going, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Simple as.
And it was probably a bit more of an age then when it was harder to say no in a way than it is now.
Yeah, because even then it was like, well, this is the job and you're lucky to be here. But I don't really like that saying, you're lucky to be here. I'm not lucky to be here. I've worked really hard. Yeah. I'm doing the best I can for you, for me, and for the paying public.
Yeah. Speaking of saying no, I listened to an interview where you said that you were once told to make love to a chair during a Rent audition.
Yeah, that's true.
A, what did you do when you were asked to do that? And B, if someone asked you to do that now, what would you say? As in, if you were auditioning for something now.
Again, different times. This is like a long time ago, and I think it was Rent first. Rent was huge. Yeah. It was absolutely massive on Broadway. It was coming here. Everyone was talking about it. I was way too naive, way too young to really even be like considered for it really. But I do remember going in, it was a huge room. There was a massive panel and they were like, okay, make love to this chair and, fully through to, And I was just like mortified. I was embarrassed. I did an awful job. I was just way too embarrassed. I think now, I don't know. I just feel like when you're older and you've done more, you would probably approach it differently. Yeah, it probably wouldn't really happen now. But it probably wouldn't be in a room with so many people. It probably wouldn't happen on your first round. Yeah. Also you'd ask more questions. Yeah. Because I'd ask. And so in what part of the show is this? Of course, why am I doing it? Yeah. What is the before, during, and the after of why is this so important? And if I get those answers legit, I'll have a go. I'm an actor, I'll do whatever I can if I feel comfortable. Yeah. I didn't feel comfortable back then.
Would you say that is your most awkward audition experience?
There's so many. Listen, I don't care what anyone says, you can be the most... brilliant musical theatre person, famous or not famous, auditions can go from walking out and being like, that was brilliant, that felt great. Or you can literally sometimes walk out and be like, I'm awful and what I'm actually doing, no matter how many years down the line. Yeah. So I've had, it's a whole nother show. I've had some awful audition experiences due to sometimes me, due to sometimes the room, the pianists, not all of them 99.9% of them are amazing, but sometimes that cannot work. So I've done some absolute corkers. I've forgotten words. I've started again, I've forgotten them again, loads.
And it's like life, isn't it? Sometimes the stars just don't align for whatever reason it is.
They don't align. And sometimes it can be like, sometimes you've got an audition and you're singing like a top C belt at 10 o'clock in the morning and that just doesn't work for you. Sometimes, So there's loads and loads of different factors. But listen, it is part of it. And as hard as it is, and it does get easier, you do really have to just kind of like semi-laugh at it.
Yeah.
And just tell someone the horrendous, ring someone and say, I have the most horrendous audition story. Yeah. And they can also laugh at you. And then you can laugh at yourself and you move on.
Exactly.
But there's loads. Everyone's got hundreds.
Yeah. And I obviously don't want to keep harping on about how long you've been in the industry for, because I'll give you a complex. But I think in 2027, it will be 30 years since your West End debut.
Okay.
Would you consider doing something to acknowledge that, like a one-man show, for example? I mean, that's a busy year because you'll have the Hairspray reunion. You might have this.
Do you know what? Like, a lot of people would, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
And I think it's great. I just probably wouldn't, because one, I'm like, who cares? And secondly, can I be bothered?
Yeah.
And thirdly, like, I'm just...
Someone else organised it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think, like, I have been asked probably the last sort of 10 years, I've had a few offers of, is Adele or, do a one-person show, and it has come up, and I wouldn't say never. I think maybe if I got like something quite big off the back of it, I might. Yeah. But I just find it hard putting on a one-man show and then begging your closest friends to buy tickets to come and see you sing. Yeah, I just find it a bit like, if I want to do it, come if you like, my friends, but then also I'd rather, legit like musical theatre fans that like you on whatever show to come, and, you can experience it together than being like, I need to sell 150 tickets, I need to sell 200 tickets, and then saying, please come to like your best mate. It's like, well, what? Yeah. I just find that a little bit like awkward. Never say never, but probably not. I'm just really happy that I'm still enjoying it. I'm still ambitious, and I'm still working. Yeah. That for me, that's my own personal behind closed doors pat on the back, because being in the industry for so long, I've seen some amazing people come and go very quickly. Yeah. Some people who really think they've arrived, and they sometimes are not the nicest of people, and they're really big and brilliant at that time, and then after 3-4 years, I've never seen them again. Yeah. And then I've seen some people literally start from nothing to go on to do amazing things and be brilliant and wonderful and still doing it, and it's great. So just keep on keeping on, and just like doing a bit here and there, and still getting seen for things, and still getting a Villy checked and auditions and. That in itself is just like, pretty good, because it's hard, and people do leave because it's that difficult, because they just want something more stable and they want a different life, which is fine and amazing. And when you've got to that conclusion or got to that point in your life, then that's a win as well. Yeah. But just the fact that I enjoy it and I'm still doing it, I'm happy with that.
You talked right at the beginning about, with the Arlene Phillips story about being nice. Yeah. Do you think that is one of the kind of, it's not a secret, but keys to your success, in the sense that that's why you have worked for so long, because you're disciplined and
I don't know. There's some people working who aren't that nice.
Oh, fair enough. Yeah.
So
that's for another podcast.
Yeah. There are not. And also, listen, I just think listen, I'm not saying like, I'm the most nicest, like best person in the world, of course not. I just try my best with everyone. I give everyone a chance. Yeah. I don't listen to, 'cause there's a lot of gossiping in this industry. And also what happens is you do get people say, oh, I hear you're working with X, Y, and Z, how's that? Or you're not going to like them, or, oh, God, you wait, they're a nightmare. And I'm always like, no. I hear what you're saying, thank you. Yeah. But I speak as I find. Yeah. So I will make my own mind up. And if I do come in contact with that person, and we have a good rapport, and they're nice to me and I'm nice to them, then I'm good with that. Yeah. But I don't think it's a case of like being nice to get by or faking being nice. I think you just are. I just like to treat everyone exactly the same, be it on stage, off stage, front of house. I speak to everyone whenever I can. I like to get involved with everything whenever I can. Yeah. And that's just kind of it, because we're all in it together. Like, the show doesn't work with just the cast.
Of
It makes me, I just think it's hilarious where, you know, some cast members or some people you can come across and they think like they are the show and no one else matters. It's like, guys, like, there isn't a show if we don't have the stage doorman, if we don't have the front of house, especially if we don't have everyone, you know, helping clean up, if we don't have backstage, it's not going to happen. So I don't know what you think it's going to happen. We are all in the show together. We're all in the same building together. And I find that's really, really important. That doesn't really happen sometimes, especially with some like upcoming, like new people. I just think, you know.
And looking back on your career, I know that you're a very keen vinyl collector.
I am, yes. My little hobby. You got to have a hobby.
Exactly.
It's good to have a hobby.
Yes. If you could immortalise just one of your performances on vinyl to keep forever, which performance would you choose?
Which one would I choose? Well, do you know what? I'm gonna always come back to the same show.
Yeah.
I would say Hairspray, only because there was a real moment where we were like inches away from making an original London cast recording. It was gonna happen. It was in the works. It was like, it's gonna happen. Yeah. And it, for some reason, I don't know the ins and outs of it, but it just didn't happen. And I think everyone was really disappointed and a bit like gutted. And then even like years after, I spoke to like different producers and people, and they were like, "Oh, the one thing we really should have done was a cast recording. We're really upset it didn't really happen." Yeah. So that just would have been nice, because just to have like Tracy Bennett. Well, I mean,
you kind of forget how many huge names
Mel
were in that
Smith,
show.
the amazing comedian, Michael Ball. Like, we had that like most amazing like ensemble who's, they've all like gone on to like amazing stuff, and then obviously like Ben Ellis and Leanne and Eleanor, and it was just incredible. Yeah. And to have like Mark and Scott, Jerry, and just to have those in like the room and just to go over the stuff with you is just a real shame that didn't happen. Yeah, really, that is a shame. I'm a bit sad about that, really.
Hence why there should be a reunion, but there we go. Possibly. You don't have to answer this one if you don't want, because it's a bit of a cheeky one. Sure. Would you rather perform again with Jerry Halliwell or perform again with the unnamed music icon that you went on tour with, who you were instructed not to speak to?
That's actually quite an easy one. I would work again with the unnamed amazing, like, we love this person. I would work with that person.
Is it someone who's still in the industry?
Very much so. And who's well respected. And what I will say about this person is that they were incredible and voice just unbelievable. And that is one thing I will always remember. But also at the same time, we do have to say that you don't know what everyone is going through at any time in their life. I can only go with my experience of that short time. It wasn't great. The person and the people that surrounded that person wasn't the nicest. But we got on with the job, and I did the best I could, and I don't regret it at all. And I learned a lot from that person, from being so amazing. And that person has actually asked for me to work with them again. Oh, right. I said no, but it was nice.
So we could have kept our eyes peeled and worked out who it was.
It was nice to be asked. So yes, that person. Joe Halliwell, not so much. Fair enough. Sorry, Spice Girls fans.
Well, I was going to say,
not for me.
I prefer Posh Spice anyway. It's fine. And final question: if your life was a stage show, do you feel like you are in the first act or the second act? Sounds a bit morbid, doesn't it? It's not intended to be.
Do you know what? Like, let's not lie. Let's not be silly. It's going to be the second act. Do you know what I mean? It has to be the second act.
Well, I don't know.
God, there's, my first like big professional West End job was in 1998 at the Prince of Wales Theatre, where Book of Mormon is now. Wow. So that's a while ago. And I've done a fair few things through them, be it theatre, music tours, singing for other singers, music industry stuff, backing vocals. It's been great. It's been a lot. So it would probably be the second act. Let's be realistic.
And what a brilliant stage show it would be. So
I hope so.
Well, on that note, I'm so grateful to you for coming in. Like I say, I mean, you've had such an enviable career. I mean, there is just so much to ask you about. I mean, that is just a snapshot of it in whatever 45 minutes that we've been speaking. But yeah, I just really appreciate you coming in, sharing your memories, your highlights. It's fascinating to listen to.
And
thank
I
you
could
so
listen
much
to a lot more. Thanks for asking. It's always nice to be asked.
Thank you very much. And of course, for more information, you can go to @City Academy UK. And of course to YouTube for the full video, and we will see you again very soon. Thank you very much, Adrian.
Thank you.